Welcome to Filmhuset in Stockholm, Sweden.
We are super proud to present the students of the master program, The Art of Impact.
It's a collaboration between the acting department and the film and media department.
And after the students have showed their work, there will be a Q&A in 360 degrees. So please stay with us and write questions and comments so we will answer. Welcome.
Welcome.
Hi Katta!
Hi
Katta
Maja!
Pålsson! Oh my god, I'm so happy. I just got the chance to see The Walk, which is your master presentation here, and I'm blown away. It was so interesting. I would describe it, and correct me if I'm wrong, as an immersive experience, a VR experience, and I would say the topic is mental health as in a wider spectrum, but I think it's more about how we care for each other and what caring is and what's compassion. Am I wrong or am I on topic?
No, it's perfect. I'm so happy that you were here, and I'm so happy that you say what you're saying. Yeah, the topic is around that, definitely.
And I'm so curious, what got you to deal with in such a beautiful way with this topic? What got you engaged to create a piece of this format?
Well, I think the most important thing is that we as human beings need each other, and we need the physicality, the touches and the tactile and everything. And also that the modern media, the new technology, is amazing in how we could be in touch and in contact. So my research is how to melt those things, the body, the physical thing, with the high-tech things. Just take both of the best world to actually come together as humanity.
I wanted to ask you about fragility. I think fragility is portrayed in a beautiful way. And I think also there is a portion of it captured in the live sound that we hear that's being performed by the instruments there. How did you come about that idea? It's such an important part of the production.
Yeah, but it's sort of the same, because I wanted to have the whole spectrum of what we are as humans and as artists, to merge those. And I think live music and live actors are what we actually need to do this.
I thought it was very interesting, to be confronted with the sound. I wasn't with the headsets, but also to see others use the VR headsets in this way. It was, I think, very interesting.
Yeah, so we sort of get to the story in all kinds of different levels. And behind me here, for example, I have the headphones, and it's for the people who don't have the VR. Then you could look at the screens and you could tune in to the right channel, depending on if you like the story, or it could also be that you see that all the other people in the room, they're having the green light on. What's going on in the green? So you interact, because I think that's the main important thing in my work, both artistically and humanity and political. It's that we actually need each other. We have to collaborate and see each other in a profound way.
I agree, and I really feel it in the piece. And also, I have to say that there are some very beautiful, trade ways, the way you kind of assigned colors at the beginning that makes it really easy to trace what you're doing. So I think within this world you created, although it's dealing with this topic and makes you sometimes uneasy, it's still kind of easy to follow. Did you work on the script yourself, or did you work with someone, or did you work with the actors?
I always work in collaborations. I mean, I have the idea what I want to do, and then of course the actors are really important, because they ask the right questions. What the fuck is going on? Why? And so we have elaborated the script together, actually.
I think you can really feel that. And what was the biggest challenge maybe for you working this way and with the actors?
Well, the actors is just a challenge that you want to do more and more and more with them. They are never the problem. It's the technique and the confusion in how we how we combined, because with film and technical things, you have to plan before and then you're sort of ready. But with theater, it's completely different. You plan and then the work starts. Yeah. When you actually are rehearsing, when you meet the audience. So, I mean, today was just like, it wasn't even a general rehearsal. It was like first time doing the script, because now we could start working with the audience, together to really elaborate around those things.
And how do you think this live feed captures, like, what do you think it captures in regards to audience and presence being so important to the walk?
I have no idea. I just hope that you get some kind of feeling of the importance in the dialogue and in the discussions between the actors, the pictures, and also between the participants themselves, because you sit near somebody and you react differently, and you could feel each other's reactions. And sometimes it's, you go with them, or sometimes you get, what the fuck is going on? So difficult to say, since the whole point is to have the live audience in place. But I hope you get an idea of what is going to
I'm curious to get to see the video of the feed and to see how I perceive it in that medium. I think there is a beauty to what you did and the spatiality to it.
I remember the wounds on his arms and legs. I was always so scared of the blood flowing, and I didn't know what to do.
I can no longer run to his house as soon as he hear the neighbors planning to kidnap him. I'm tired of putting the cables back on the wall when he tears them down because they are sending message. It's when the silence, the emptiness, the quietness comes that he gets afraid.
Closer. Come closer, please. Come and sit with me. All I want is to be here with you. Hold on. Don't lose me now. Keep them away from me. Don't let me go. Yes. Shh. I can hear the little tattle on the walls. Do you hear them? Yes. Shh. I can hear.
It's not supposed to be like this. I am the one. It's not my fault. I didn't mean to do it. Oh, Jesus. I'm so tired. I just want to leave. Go far away from them. Oh my God, that would be nice. Far away from them.
To do this.
Oh,
and over again. I'm so scared. I'm so scared. Will he make it this time? Oh my God.
Yes. Shh. I can hear the little tattle of the walls. Hear them.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
What?
Are you really sure it was here?
What?
Yeah, it's here.
What?
Where we were going to wait.
Okay.
What?
Nothing.
Is this really the place?
Yeah, is this really the place?
Are you sure?
What?
That we're supposed to wait here.
What?
Nothing.
Okay.
And if he doesn't show up?
Well, then we come back tomorrow.
And the day after tomorrow?
And so on.
I think we're at the wrong place.
No. It's the right place.
Are you sure?
What?
That we're supposed to wait here.
Okay.
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 With me.
He's not dead, but for me he's dead. For me he's dead. I don't want to be here.
I don't know if he will make it this time. I'm so scared. I don't know.
There are several levels of reality and several ways of how to connect and participate with the work and your fellow participants. The question on a practical level have been to see what theatre can bring into technical context and vice versa, like time-space, body-mind, narrative agency, inside, outside, fluid, crashes, alone, together. What does it actually mean? On a human level, I've been thinking a lot about the story from a hospital with very sick children. They all died after a short time, except the child to the right inside of the door. The scientists were puzzled. But after a while, a nurse discovered that the cleaner always said hi when he came and bye when he left. That was the difference. That small contact was life-saving. The important contact for the nurse in the time of corona is difficult. It's difficult to look at somebody through the security suit or give a touch on the shoulder as encourage. It's obvious that the front line of life-saving is made with our bodies. Nurses, cleaner, cashiers, drivers, teachers. The body that our society need, that can't work from home, that have a shitty pay and lousy working conditions. That body that reminds us that we are animals. Marta Nussbaum talks about how we try to control things to separate us from animals by calculating, reasoning, no instinct, not even cleaning our own house. And we name the other by animal names, and we keep putting things in Excel sheets. We think that every part of reality must be reflected in some type of paper in order for us to have control over it. Swedish philosopher Jonna Bornemark talks about it. When you think that you should measure, calculate and control everything, and most preferably through Excel sheets, you miss that reality is infinite and infinitely complex. Like Victor Klemperer, I think words are important. How we talk with and about each other. Words can be like tiny doses of arsenic, he says. They are swallowed unnoticed, appear to have no effect, and then, after a little time, the toxic reaction sets in after all. In Sweden, we have 18 years different in lifespan, depending on where you live. Wilson and Pickett talk in their book, The Spirit Level, Why Most Equality Societies Almost Do Better, about how our concern for justice, which is clearly visible in young children, sometimes seems so strong that one can be surprised that social systems with great inequality are tolerated at all. I would like my work to be part of this and what Nussbaum talks about plays. Playing teaches people to be capable of living with others without control. It connects the experience of vulnerability and surprise to curiosity and wonder, rather than to crippling anxiety. Actors, like nurses, interact with the other human when, how, and what. I think that together with huge political reforms, we can connect to what we are, children in big clothes. Like Greta Thunberg says, I'm very tiny and I'm very emotional, and that is not something people usually associate with strength. I think weakness, in a way, can be also needed because we don't have to be the loudest, we don't have to take up the most amount of space, and we don't have to earn the most money. We need to care about each other more. Capitalism is currently asking socialism to save it from collapsing. Aristotle says, we are afraid of death, we need courage. We have a body of desire and passion, we need moderation. We live in a world with scarce resources. We need justice. We suffer from weakness and illness. We need gentleness. We need social community. We need friendliness. We are human beings. We need love. Theatre is a form of knowledge. It should and can also be a means of transforming society. Theatre can help us build our future rather than just wait for it. Auguste Boal, over and out.
In this project, Fares looked into filmmaking not as a tool for analyzing reality, but more for explore the borders of a new desirable one. How we see ourselves as individuals, explore life in action, and how we look into each other and with that discover life in curiosity and love. In the narrative and module, the aim is to try with minimal tools to propose some ways of integration and mutual understanding. And by minimal tools, Fares means minimalistic built environment, like light in different times of the day, water in different states, and very open ways of verbal expression, as if one was born into a new dimension and imagine what kind of borders they would like to give it. Hi Fares, how are you?
Yeah, hi, I'm fine, thank you.
Thank you for sharing your work.
Thank you.
So I wanted to ask you, how did you decide on the scenes?
I was thinking about how we analyze our relation to the world around us and how that triggers our strive to exploration and learning about the others and ourselves. How we build up meanings through experiences, and what I would say there is like very close study to that by Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning, and he explains how people find their happiness in exploring and observing the others, and actually themselves also in relation to the other, and exploring their life through action.
Interesting, thank you.
Yeah, thank
So tell me more about the idea behind your work.
In this work, I started to look how we as a human deriving meanings out of stories and how to empower the audience and invite them to interact with the work itself. This project is an open world. That has a poetic experience with kind of Gansfield effect, where the audience could fill up with their own interpretation, interact with the story and with the character inside. So this project C, I would say, is interdependency relation between the camera as a directional object, the improvisation of the character led by a dancer, and the proposed story, and the audience that has the freedom of interaction, directing into their own or new version of possible viewpoints.
Thank you, Fares. So how could this look in the broader medium of filmmaking?
Actually, I'm trying to make the life details, which are usually in the background, as a foreground story. In the traditional films, you would see the actors, the props, the fixed lighting, as the scenes that have the spotlight on the protagonist, and everything else in the background, from traffic, people, buildings, commercial banners, etc. I'm interested to make this background more present as a core subject of my films and investigating its elements, giving and taking back the power position of a narrator to and from the audience, trying to support in parts, bring together the human unity more than personal individual experience of certain protagonists. And actually I would say that one of the work resembling this approach, film called Qadri.
So we're speaking about the aesthetic of your project. Do you have some visual inspiration that you use for as a background in your story or in your project?
Actually, like about the visual inspiration, one of them was Blade Runner 2049, that uses the elements of nature to define space, time, and conditions. We don't see clocks, the actors don't say the time, but it's about light and shadow. We see big domes and floods outside, but inside you see people are limited to 10-second shower. It's not about the elements themselves, It's about the state that the imbalance it evokes. The water in Blade Runner 2049 is used to show floating outside, lacking inside, and almost kills the protagonist Kay. In the end, we can see it as a snow that gives the relieving sense in the end.
Thank you. So could you connect that again with your project?
I would say water, light, and shadows are used to shape the story and guide the audience through the film. And that's what I'm trying to have in my VR experience, to make people interact with these elements in a way that they can have their own views and perspectives. As it's an open world, you have the choice whether to interact with the story and with the other character or not.
Because in the real world, you interact with this element in another way.
Actually, like in the real world, you can see these elements. You can go to the sea, you can go on the top of a skyscraper, but it's really hard to be standing in the middle of infinite water and also witnessing a day that lapses in matters of minutes. The world sea has this twist of the imagination and uncertainty, though you are in control as an audience. And with that, these elements are taking on another role in my film.
Thank you, Fares. And it was really interesting to see that character that you have in the scene. So I really want to ask you more, if you tell me more about it.
Inside the film is not anyone in particular, as it's just there, wondering about the world it is in, as anyone of the audience entering this world. And the genuine element of this world is happening around you, where you are as an audience is invited to join.
Yeah. So what the special thing you want to add to this?
Despite the whole film has a dreamy look to it, it is featureless. And what I mean by that, there are no details, no props. You don't see chairs, you don't see paintings, doors, etc. It's just like the idea of Gansfield, where the space is given to the essential elements of light and shadow to become the protagonist and fill in the core of this poetic experience.
Oh, cool. So in what plans you have for this project in the future?
Actually, when I worked on this project, I worked on it last year and it was exhibited in Stuttgart FMX. But now, due to the situation, I can't do more than showing trailer or small scenes of it, because I want the audience to interact with it and see it from the inside. You know, when they have the VR, it's really different feeling to it. So I'm just planning to have, after this situation, I'm planning to have an exhibition and an installation with it.
Oh, cool. Looking forward to try it.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. So now we leave you to the trailer of See.
Hi, Elias. Thank you so much for coming. You came today to Filmhuset to see our exhibition State of Uncertainty, which is a collection of work we have done during our university studies with virtual reality and augmented reality projects. And you went through everything, so we saw you trying out the experiences, and now we get the chance to listen to your thoughts and discuss with us about it. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for letting me see this experience. I mean, I guess I'm one of the very few that can actually see it this year, so I feel honored for that. And no, it was really amazing. And I mean, I've seen the process behind this a little bit, but we have only been talking on Zoom, so it was actually nice to see something for real. And I think that's kind of interesting, actually, how this situation kind of ties in with your project as well. A moment ago, I saw you performing a stand-up show here, and now you're sitting here for real, almost in the same place where I saw you in the augmented reality. So actually, maybe we can talk a little bit about how you see upon these different layers of reality and of technology, and how they can kind of affect each other, because I think that's interesting how you almost kind of mix it up so much that you almost lose track of it.
I guess an interesting starting point for that would be looking at the fact that they're displayed in the studio as they are, because initially all of these works were created to be seen in the city. So like when you saw Aliki stand up, we create this cafe because you're supposed to see it like in a cafe or in a library or in a park or something. And when you look at the Globen model, you're supposed to see that on the real Globen in Stockholm. And then if you look at the Beckenbauer piece, it's kind of doing it the other way around. It's like a building that existed and we've brought it into a virtual world. So that's kind of like the starting point, I think, for playing with this reality and false reality.
Yes, and because we kind of saw this where we were working with those prototypes, we saw this, exactly what you described, and this game with reality and technology and like projections of different things. And we had this idea that we will, for our graduation, we will bring everything in a space where we can look at it as it is and have some kind of overview of what we're doing.
And I think also there's something about bringing everything together in a space like this that kind of helped us to define what the important things in the work that we do is when it all comes together. So like something we realized is that accessibility to spaces and accessibility to these kind of projects sort of drives us in quite a strong way.
And even for the VR piece, if you look at it in the very, very first level, it's, I mean, for us that work mostly with film, it's suddenly one step up in terms of participation, because the audience has this opportunity of looking around. When we speak of accessibility, it's not, and that's something Emma writes a lot about as well in the essay, we don't only think of it as in terms of distribution, but also in terms of
meeting the audience.
Yeah, in terms of the reaction of the audience, like how close the proximity that they feel to the piece.
In this piece with Beckenbauer, you also had the musicians here that were playing live. It kind of made you more aware of the immersion. I kind of forgot that they were playing, and then when I took it off, I realized, okay, they're still there. It was not just in this Beckenbauer world. And was that a decision that you took to adapt to this situation, or would that have also been like that if you've shown it somewhere else?
This was about the exhibition, right? That was for the exhibition part. This material that is in the VR experience is heading towards becoming a VR film. So we decided to take this material on its way and work on it in an exhibition. And then we were thinking about ways to enhance this liveness of that, and then of course performance is a very strong one.
Given that all of our projects were meant to be experienced in a certain way, we wanted to build up some kind of like tactile and interactivity in the space that could add to the interactivity you already have by going through the experience. So it's very intentional that like when you go into the State of Uncertainty experience around Beckenbauer, that you walk on this gravel path. Like that's the sense, and it gives a certain sound and it gives a certain behavior. And so bringing the musicians in was like another level on that. Andreas, who was the musician, actually created a soundtrack, and we could have just played that through, but we thought about it, and it's so much more interesting visually and so much more interesting in terms of how you as a user feel to have this sound live.
In this kind of experience, I guess it's common to feel a bit alone, but then the musicians made you feel not so alone, actually.
And it also added an extra, it was like an extension of this uncertainty that we work a lot with as a concept inside the experience, inside the VR. By having the musicians playing live, they could try, which that was something we discussed a lot with them, trying to find this balance, like balancing these, creating the uncertainty and trying to find the balance between the music and the silence and the sound, and doing this kind of juggling the whole time.
The Globen project, it's also part of like a bigger project because it's the sun, right? Globen, yes.
So should we explain a little bit of that to
maybe
help you launch into that question?
Exactly.
So with the Globen app, basically we've taken this 3D model of Globen, and the fact is that Globen is it's a building in Stockholm, and it forms part of a scaled down solar system across the whole city, and Globen is the sun. And it was kind of fun because the guy who came up with it basically came up with it out of frivolity. It was like, oh, this would be a great idea, and then did it. And what we kind of built around this idea was that we'd like to do, it's a prototype for an app that will work as a kind of like exploration of Stockholm in a new way through the history and the hidden bit, like stories in the architecture. And so there's going to be points all over the city that people can interact with. And it's specifically, it comes back to this idea of accessibility because it's specifically chosen that it shouldn't just be in the central islands. So it's built for tourists and people who live in Stockholm and who live in Sweden, and to help them avoid going to these like usual points that people go to when they want to be a tourist. So the idea is that they're forced to go and explore like the suburb that even people who live in Stockholm don't go to, because there is something there that's interesting, they're just refusing to acknowledge it. And also to help people who live in those places reconsider the environment around them and start to engage with the city in a more playful and like explorative way.
Yeah, exactly. We had this idea that when you walk around the city, sometimes you happen to have a company of somebody that for some reason knows the city very well and shows you. Sometimes it happens with architecture students, for example. I've experienced this a lot, and they show you some particular spot in a particular building and tell you something, and then since then every time you look at it, you just remember this thing. So we thought that okay, AR can be fantastic for this thing.
Yeah, because I'm thinking also about the augmented Aliki, that now you saw me experience it, so you could see kind of my reactions and everything. But I guess in another setting, if people use the app, or then you two will not be around, so to see the reactions. So I'm just curious about that. How will you know that what you get out there if people are experiencing these things on their own?
Can I ruin comedy for him?
Yeah, definitely.
Comedy is this is the most traumatizing thing that I learned. Comedy is extremely formulaic. So if we're smart, we get good comedians, and they will have jokes that generally will hit right most of the time with certain groups of people, I guess. And then that's for us to, I guess, run tests and check that the jokes work and test different audiences and this kind of thing. But if we do enough tests and if we work with these kind of comedians, and it should be possible to come to a kind of formula that most people would find something that they enjoy in it.
Even in the live comedy, sometimes you have a bad night. It happens to everybody.
But then you notice that. I mean, in this way, maybe you will not notice the reactions because you will not be.
Yes, there's one plan for it particularly because it's this, of course, this content is meant to be shown live. Definitely, stand-up comedy is live, and that's the beauty of it. That's the roughness and all that. And even when you see it recorded, you see the audience that represents you, so that's a different thing. But we have a plan adding features to this augmented Aliki thing, but we'll change the name as well. And we have a plan to add interactivity elements. And these will kind of fake the liveness in some way, create a feeling of liveness, even if it's not really happening at this time.
And one thing we also discussed was the possibility to like approve or like to kind of upvote or downvote comedians. I guess like if you find jokes funny, you can like choose that you found them funny, and that could also like go into data that helps us understand. Okay, well then we need to film this kind of joke or this kind of comedian, depending on where we are. But that's I don't know. There's so many options because what you've seen is such an early prototype where it's taking just a stand-up that I've seen and found funny and that Aliki does and seems to work, and putting that into the space. And then if it, we'll have to look at different ways of developing it, basically.
Yeah, that's another example of interactivity. It can be it can go from the super extreme of understanding if you are laughing or not and reacting to this, which is possible, or at least will be possible in the next years, I hope.
Face recognition.
Face recognition, those are extremes that can actually be possible. Or to just rating, like simpler interactivity versions.
But because augmented Aliki is not site-specific, right? You would, as I understand, you would be able to see the stand-up show anywhere, basically.
Yeah, we have different ideas for it.
Okay.
So the initial intention was that we would kind of plant it in different locations across the city. So like maybe you go to a park and you could see it there, or you go into a library and you could see it there, and it would be at different points. So some cafes, some parks, some libraries, kind of thing. But the other thing was that once COVID hit, we thought that what we could do is release it online, and then you give people very specific instructions. So like we set this up so that you could come and grab a coffee and then sit down and drink your coffee and watch it and feel like you're in a cafe. But if we were releasing it so that people could have it in their home, it would be very strict that like, okay, you have to pour yourself a drink of some kind. You have to sit down.
Yeah.
You cannot you can't leave the space and like let yourself be distracted. But if your family or your kids run past screaming, like embrace that as part of the experience, because you're supposed to see everything around you.
Yeah.
Yes, but of course we had the thought of I mean, it depends very much on the technology as well, right? Because at the moment we can't have it for Android, for example. At this very moment, we're working on it. We'll make it probably work, but that's another thing that kind of limits us to, it has to be somewhere and you go there and you get a tablet. Or otherwise, of course, it's fantastic for the audience to have it and place it wherever they want. It's part of the funniness, actually. You can place a stand-up show in places that are definitely not for a stand-up show, and that's fantastic.
They're all prototypes, so they're all things that have a future that we're working on at the moment, and they're going to be brought into different kinds of technologies. So there's different ways to film augmented Aliki. We did it in the most basic way we could, which was what we could get access to. Like uncharted territories needs more time to be developed, to be like in the city first of all, and then also like different kinds of like different development of the animation and everything, and this sort of narrative aspect of it. And then, as Aliki said earlier, State of Uncertainty is supposed to be a short film. So what you've seen is like a couple of minutes excerpt of what it will be.
Yeah. Because I think people will be super excited now when they've got these glimpses of this to actually be able to download the apps and to see it.
To see it, yeah, that's cool.
That's perfect.
Super, thank you so much for coming and testing everything for us. It was super great to have you as an audience.
Thank you for this wonderful experience.
Welcome back to Filmhuset in Stockholm, Sweden, with the master students, the Art of Impact. We proudly present them for the next for the next generation, and we have 3 more students to present. And Tinna, what do you want to?
Yes, I just want to encourage you as an audience to write your questions in the comments field in the chat, because this is the independent degree project, and the students are encouraged, and it's a goal for their learning to communicate their learning, their knowledge production. So don't be shy, no question is too small, and no question I think is too complicated for these students to answer. And we will send out a new link for you to click on. And if you follow me, this is the 360-degree camera. So you will be able to see all the students if you use your finger to scroll around. But we have now taken part of 4 of the students' work, and now we will introduce you to 3 more students from the master program, The Art of Impact.
Hello, Franco.
Hey, Fares.
How are you?
Fine.
Yeah, good. Today we will talk about your project.
Yes.
Yeah. Franco's project is about embodied narratives as a core for an action. He decided to work with an immersive experience based on a fictional story of an ex-patient of the former mental hospital back home Baria.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but in this case, Johan was one of the persons who got his own apartment when the hospital closed.
Exactly. And as you can see, this is his apartment. Johan is the character, is a young artist, but he is not here in the apartment. So when the visitor come, nobody is gonna be here. But the idea is that the visitors start to interact with the space and with the objects, and through that, he gonna create the history of Johan. And also, the space gonna have some mapping animations. They're gonna help to create that story. So yes, the idea is to interact with the space and put your body in action to kind of know what happened with this character. And if you don't interact with the space, nothing is gonna happen.
Det var ju så att man byggde ett mentalsjukhus långt ute på landet. Dels för att patienterna skulle få frisk luft och få lugn miljö. Och dels var det också för att man ville gömma undan de psykiskt sjuka från omvärlden.
Att han har upplevt en skötare som är intervjuad i den här fältskriften, att han känner det som om att utskrivning av patienter ofta känns som om att man slänger ut de psykiskt störda till vargarna. Och en ambition är att vi ska försöka skapa, eller en förhoppning rättare sagt, är att våra förslag skulle kunna skapa en situation där psykiatrins personal och ni som jobbar inom psykiatrin ska kunna känna en helt annan trygghet i att kunna skriva ut människorna till en välfungerande verklighet.
So in order to get the most of the experience, the visitors must interact physically with the room. What do you think the idea behind this?
Yeah, the idea was like we come from how we consume information in a superficial way, you know, like it's like so much information that we never go deep and kind of we don't relate a person behind the event and behind the information. So the idea to put your body in action, I'm really like I'm interested in this quality of the objects that can connect to your perception in a way that you will not expect. For example, how a piece of your house or your house of your childhood can bring you to that memory. So I was thinking to use that quality of the objects in the space, but in this case the object would be the object of this character, or Johan, and how my interest in how to create storytelling with not just with your eyes or with your ears, also use the sense of touch and see what happens. So leave these things that belongs to Johan and how you depends of you what you read, what you touch, how you recreate this history of the character. It's like it's very also depends of every person how they interact with the space.
Why did you choose the story, and what's the motivation behind it?
When I was living in Buenos Aires, I also worked in a mental hospital, also with art. I was like making documentary with the patients of the mental hospital. So and also we have a class and we went to this architecture to Becomberia, and I was impressed, and I think there was a story that fit this idea of discover the person behind the event, and also it's part of a modern history of Stockholm. So help me to connect with the city in some way, because involved to go out and ask to people and investigate and go to archives. So I think that was really interesting for me to get out of my comfort zone.
Yeah. And why did you choose this technique? Why like going digitally and physically at the same time?
Yeah, I think that I chose the technique because I think it was like I also need to put me in the room as Johan. So I say, okay, I'm gonna tell the story with the objects there is in the room, and so that's why I choose stop motion, because also have a really close connection to materiality. You need, and these characters are papers, so I have to create the character for papers and see how interact with the person, and also mapping projections also like it's kind of give life to these papers in the wall and help to tell the story of Johan. So I think that I was interested in all this combination to tell a story, how can it work, and also if it can bring like an extra reflection, maybe if it's something go through your body, to your like as embodied experience, maybe it can bring another place to think about this character of the history. So that was the idea to work with this material.
Yeah, great. And what do you think about, like, are you planning to exhibit your work, and how it's like, how you relate to the current situation?
So I know in the future I want to find a way to adapt to different formats, maybe to a smaller like presentations with the same animation, with the same content, but adapted in another format. Also maybe a VR experience.
Thank you. That was really interesting, especially maybe for me, not for the audience, because I was like inside your room and like looking through the objects and like looking through the video. It's really interesting. Really, thank you for this experience.
No, thank you for thank you for your questions.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you so much.
Okay, so this is the box of the experience. So one of you should take it. Yeah, awesome. And then everything is here. So have fun. Hey.
Hi, Maja.
Hey, Katta.
Well, I'm so happy that I was one of the people who could do that experience, and I really, really loved it.
Thank you.
Yes, because it was like a play, like a game, but it was without the competition. It was only with the fun and the curiosity. So they're going to have a great time.
Thank you. I hope so, yeah.
But I want to ask you about the name. Could you please tell me a little bit about it?
Yeah, of course. So the name of the experience is Advaita, apparently real virtual sanctuary. And we got the name out of actually a Sanskrit word meaning non-duality. Because one of the two topics of my investigation is the idea of non-duality, through which I question what reality is. And yeah, the second one being virtual presence. So basically, Advaita stems from a line of thinking that comes from the Vedic system, dealing with this idea that we are all interconnected and then consciousness has no differentiation between subject and object, to put it very simply.
So that also leads you to why you chose this format?
Yes, 100% it does, because to me, in order to question how we perceive reality, because basically the idea is that perception is the thing that leads to misinterpretation. So in order to question how we perceive reality, it was very intuitive to use virtual reality as a means to achieve that questioning. And then also, because it's a question of non-duality, we wanted to actually have two subjects, two players, two audience members that engage in the same experience from two angles, but to the same end. So I'm really actually happy that you said it was like a game, because that's what we want to achieve. We want to achieve two people doing something in unison without actually knowing how and why, and only later to realize that.
Yeah. No, but that you really managed to get us into that feeling of wanting to continue, but with a very open heart and mind. So that was really great.
Yeah.
But please tell
Thanks.
me also a little bit more about your own experience, how when you created it. You talk about we all the time.
Yeah, because I have an awesome team that the audience will, the live stream audience will now meet soon. But it was a beautiful process because we worked on 3 continents in 4 countries in odd hours to create this experience. And I think also the way we worked is captured in how we're going to present this experience, because one of the boxes that I just gave them now, not one, but many of these boxes are going to be shipped to people who have the adequate technology to do the experience. So basically what we're going to be doing is we're going to be recreating this experience in many places in different times, and in that way we're going to test this idea of virtual presence. And how people can be a part of something without being maybe physically here, like like we are now. So yeah, it kind of goes hand in hand with what we're as a global society experiencing for the first time, this idea of really like moving further apart after being close together, and how we can redefine that space and give it meaning and give it value and give it presence. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to see this thing, or what you call it. What do you call it?
We call it an XR experience, so
XR
a mixed
experience
reality.
to go worldwide, because it's really worth it.
Well, thank you. Well, talking about worldwide, I think this might be a good moment to actually go talk with the team.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sure. Okay, so I leave you.
Thank you, Katta.
Hope
Yeah.
you have a good
Thanks.
night.
Awesome.
Okay, bye.
Thank
Bye.
you. Okay, so now we're basically going to talk to the guys that helped me create this experience. And then this is the team. Hi, guys.
Hi.
Hi. Welcome.
Hi.
Welcome to Filmhuset. Awesome. Let me just change the view. And I was hoping that all of you could, for the viewers, introduce yourselves. And maybe let's start with the person that's the one that's furthest away, so Danica.
Hi everyone, I'm Danica. I'm currently in south of Chile and waiting for the situation to get a bit more calm so I can come back to my home base in Barcelona.
Awesome. And then the next, which one? That would definitely be Ivan.
Hi, my name is Ivan and I'm currently in Los Angeles. I live here for about a year or two, and I've been working remotely with Maja on this project for the last month.
Awesome. And then the last but not least would be Vera. So Vera?
Yes, hi, my name is Vera, and I live and work in my hometown, Belgrade in Serbia.
Awesome. And Belgrade is where all of us are actually from. So that's how we, the thing that binds us together. So as you guys know, we have 2 participants taking part in our experience right now in Stockholm. And I wanted to start with asking you if each of you could tell maybe a bit about what was your, well, let's first start with like, what was your role in this project? And maybe let's start with now Vera, who is the closest, so vice versa. So Vera, what was your role in this project?
Actually, I had several roles in this project. First, I worked with Maja on the elaboration of the project, on the concept of design, trying to find the right form for this type of research. As well, I was working on art design for the virtual space through a 3D model that even later animated. And I was working with you, Maja, also on using and the selection of the props for real space, which are kind of link between these 2 worlds, virtual and real one. So that will be kind of. Yes, and I did the graphic design for the cards, which are part of those props, where we written some kind of directions and rules for our game.
Thank you. And then let's go to the furthest, that's Danica. Danica, what was your role?
Well, I'm gonna keep it simple. My role was making sound. Doing sound design for this project. So everything you hear is done by me.
Awesome. And then finally, Ivan?
I was a 3D designer, 3D modeler, and I made the environment in Unity, the VR environment in Unity.
I'm working for the first time from beginning to end on a project that is done remotely with the team. And I'm just like, so that's why it was so important to me to have you guys here present on this huge physical TV in this space for the exam, because even if you wanted to come, you couldn't with the lockdown. So to me, it was a very interesting thing. But then again, I think it really did bring us together in a way that was extraordinary. Although we are, as Ivan said, in different time zones, we managed to like figure out a methodology around working. So to me, that was a big difference, I guess, from what I'm used to. Of course, there are parts that you do remotely and do like not with the team, but yeah, for the whole project, this was a really big step. And I couldn't have chose a better team. So moving on, I have another question for you guys. So what I would really like to do is talk a bit more about the meaning of this project to each of you individually. To me, it's very important because this project reflects both practical use of a new format, which is VR, making a modeled space. So that was a new experience for me. We worked with making an XR, so extended reality, mixed reality format. And then we also worked on how we achieve presence. So to me, not just the way of working, but the whole pipeline was different. So maybe starting with Ivan, maybe we can start about like, what does this project mean to you? How do you see the project? What does Advaita mean to you and working on it and the topics we dealt with?
So Advaita as a concept of duality, for me, it kind of really resonates with the technology that we use and the medium that we use as VR, because in some way that I figured out Advaita or the meaning of it, one of the important things is like the universal part of it, the universality, and I guess as well like the interconnection between everything, which for me is interesting with VR in a way that you can use the same medium in different occasions with different people, and I guess have like the same experience being played again and again, and
in different circumstances.
Yes, in different circumstances, but kind of like in a controlled environment, so it's like replicated.
Yeah, I think that the catch in this process was that intersection of the real and the virtual. We considered for a long time what it is, and came up with I think great idea of an experience box that every user of our Advaita world gets wherever he is. Is he in Chile, LA, Sweden, Serbia, wherever in the world? And the props that he gets in that experience box are actually a connection between two elements which are present in both worlds, and those are time and space. And also I think that we, by introduction of the second role in this experience, who we internally call the guardian angel, we make that connection between virtual and real even more powerful.
And what I think is also very important, and I think maybe a good point to like mention now for the people watching the stream, 2 people receive a box, and within this box they receive the experience. And although it's a VR headset based, so you have to have a certain type of headset, the idea is that we make the space come to you through the props shipped in this box, so that you are building the experience. That's something that they don't know, because we're just going to show extracts of our 2 amazing volunteers doing it without actually showing the whole context. So just to clarify. And finally, but definitely not least, Danica had such a profound part in coming in, doing the sound, which is so important, which is a crucial important of the VR aspect. So maybe Danica, you can say a bit about how we chose the different frequencies, how we chose to work and approach the sound.
So first of all, it was the approach is always like, okay, how to make this thing feel more real, right? But then there is a second step to it, which is how to maybe put some elements in the sound that can extend this reality into something more. You know, like you can be more creative than, I would say, in the regular sound for movies. You can go one step further. Because the thing with virtual reality is that it feels more real. Like the thing that you're experiencing at the moment, it feels more real than, I don't know, like watching a movie, because you are the part of that experience, right? So that was quite an interesting thing when thinking about sound and how to, you know, shape certain sound elements.
And I think, to me, again, it's very curious to see that you and Ivan worked with this, and he was like doing the whole export part of that. But still, when it comes together, it's like a coherent experience. So thank you guys. Thank you for working on this so hard. Thank you for making this possible. And yeah, see you in another project. Bye, guys.
Yeah,
bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Hey, Jackel.
Hello.
Thanks so much for bringing all the masks over and giving them to us. Who is that uses them in the film?
The main character of the mask is the bird. You see, is the Christian ibis. It's also the philosophy behind my film, because my film is a traditional story about a philosopher when he falls asleep, he dreams himself become a butterfly, and then the butterfly and then become back, and then he questions himself whether the butterfly is the reality or it's just a dream. So this swapping between the butterfly and the human being is my idea about the Christian ibis and also the characters. So for the rest of the mask, it's more like it's a supplementary objects to fulfill every one of us that we are also confused some days between reality and fantasies. And later on you see in the film, then the characters also put off their masks. It means that they also gradually unfold themselves, start to realize what is it about.
If there is a line to distinguish between reality and illusion, is there also a line to distinguish between existence and death? It's cold. It's quiet. It's the best place. We are best friends forever. Heart racing, mind numbing, so much noise and silence all at once. My will was not as strong as hers. Or maybe that was the point. Maybe my will was too strong for her. I betrayed her.
We all have trauma in our heart that can't be shared. You're not alone. For some reason, I have a feeling you are writing my story while I am writing yours.
Your visit brings me color, though it won't last long. This looks so familiar. Where could I have seen it before? What if I start to see you with more affection?
What is my relationship to Emily?
Jackie is persuasive, manipulative, seductive.
That was our first date. The best moment I ever had. Later on, I realized it was also our last date.
What next? I don't know what to do next. I never thought I'd like vodka. It's too dry and too harsh. You never know till you try. That's what people always said to me. But I always do weird things when I'm with you. The first time I tasted vodka was in a weird place at a weird time. Now I'm doing weird things without you.
So, how are things going? Is he okay? Are there any improvements?
He's been for a very detailed checkup. Physically, he has improved. But in terms of his mental state, I recommend that he stays another 2 weeks for further observation.
So, once he's stable, he's free to go, right?
Well, he just woke up from a 3 years coma. He needs a lot more time to fully recover, both physically and mentally. But each case is different.
Are there any lasting symptoms or effects I should know about?
It's hard to say now. Each patient is different, which makes it impossible to say what his specific symptoms will be. And his whole life leading up to the coma was quite traumatic.
Did your brother's accident contour your way of thinking? Was this the reason for your decision? Was it all too much for you to bear? Or is there something else you haven't told me? I can tell you love him dearly. I hope to love him just as much as you did. It was so weird. We shot everything together. It's cruel that I leave you alone. Will you forgive me? Can we just blame the torture and not us? I didn't consider enough how it would hurt you. I blame myself. I should have been there for you. I looked at everything and there's no way around this. Some people have no life goals. Or they used to have them, but somewhere along the way they lost them. Do you hear the footsteps? So they roam the world aimlessly. Do you feel how heavy and how slow it is? They keep going and going and going. I don't hear it. And I don't feel it. Perhaps it's the only thing to do after a severe trauma.
When we chase something, but we can't get it, it leaves us longing. And the thing we want becomes an illusion of hazy beauty. But the mystery of perfection will be unveiled gradually during the chase. Then we find it is not as good as we expected. Come in. Hi, Doctor.
Hi, Archer.
Hi.
Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine, thank you. Any improvements?
Unfortunately, no. The suicide attempt had a horrific effect on her body. Right now, it's all come down to her and how much will she has to survive. Let's hope she doesn't give up herself.
I keep having the same dream recently. The dream is so real. I can't help but questioning if it is really a dream. I dream that you leave this world, but not dead. You just become a bird and fly away. Fly to the parallel universe where you have fun. You enjoy life with whomever you are and whoever you like. Are you having such a dream now?
What if I really know the answer inside me? And this is my wish to make it as a solution. I've had a new dream lately, and I've been having it repeatedly. No Jackie this time. Is it really a dream? I can fly. I become a bird. Lonely but free. Some people say there is a beautiful land in the underworld. that can only be entered with permission. There is no hunger, no conflict, no pain, no sorrow. It's a land where you can be released from all kinds of suffering and pain. The land is pure and blissful. It's called the Pure Land of Amitabha.
Well, there is a fortune-telling book. I think in English it's called Book of Three Lives. Maybe you have this gift because of your previous incarnation.
I don't think I'm superstitious, but I might have to agree with you on that.
Karma. Is this how it was supposed to be? I tend to ask myself, what if? What if I'm going to choose wrong? What if I can't bear the consequence like I think I can? I always wondered what I would say if the world ended in a minute. What comes up in our mind at the last moment? What will we think of right before we die?
Is everything alright, Archie? Where are you stopping?
Thanks.
Seeking process at the same time is also losing process. And the day we get what we chased also means the day that it all ends.
If there is a line to distinguish between reality and illusion, is there also a line to distinguish between existence and death?
Studio 1 in Filmhuset in Stockholm. Ulrika?
Yeah, now we are going to have a break for a little while. And then, Tinna, what happens?
Yes, the students are gathering now after their presentations, and there will be a Q&A. But for you, you need to switch to another link. So we will have a couple of minutes where you can bring coffee or just do some stretching. And then we meet again on the new link in 360 degrees. And be ready with your questions because the students have prepared for like 1 year to answer them. Okay?
No,
yes.
2 years.
2 years. They are prepared for 2 years. Yeah. Well prepared, you can say. So short break now, switch of links, and then we see you soon. Bye.
We've been preparing for 2 years to have some questions.
different?
This is always good.
Yes. We have a question. We have a question for you. Too.
Yeah, but you have to answer it because it's from my mom.
Okay.